The American dream begins with a three-digit number. It was a Tuesday morning in September when Marcus Alejandro Rivera stepped off the plane at Chicago O'Hare International Airport with exactly one carry-on bag, a pocket full of dreams, and absolutely zero understanding of what a credit score was. He was 24 years old, freshly graduated from a university in Guatemala City with a degree in civil engineering, and he carried with him the burning ambition of every first-generation immigrant who has ever crossed a border believing that hard work alone is enough to build a life. The Chicago skyline greeted him from the taxi window like something from a movie. Glass towers catching the September sun, the gray shimmer of Lake Michigan stretching beyond the horizon like a second ocean. His cousin, Elena Vasquez, had agreed to let him sleep on her couch in Pilsen while he found his footing. She worked as a dental hygienist, had been in America for 6 years, and had learned the hard way everything Marcus was about to learn the easy way, by watching someone else suffer through it first. "You need to understand one thing before anything else," Elena told him over arroz con pollo his first night, sliding her phone across the dinner table. On the screen was a number, 742. "This number," she said, tapping it with her index finger, "is more important in this country than your engineering degree, your work ethic, your references, and sometimes, I'm not joking, your prayers." Marcus stared at the number. "What is it?" "It's my credit score. It took me 5 years to build it. And without a number like this, you cannot rent an apartment by yourself. You cannot buy a car without paying through the nose. You cannot get a credit card with reasonable terms. And someday, when you're ready, you cannot buy a house without it costing you tens of thousands of dollars extra over the life of the loan." Marcus picked up her phone and looked at the number more carefully. 742, 3 digits that somehow controlled a person's financial life. He felt a chill that had nothing to do with Chicago's approaching autumn. "So how do I get a number like that?" he asked. Elena smiled, and it was the smile of someone who has survived a difficult journey and is grateful to offer a map to the next traveler. "That's exactly what I'm going to teach you," she said, "but it's going to take time and patience, and you cannot make the mistakes I made." That night, lying on Elena's couch with the city humming outside the window, Marcus Rivera made a decision that would alter the course of his financial life. He opened a new note on his phone and typed at the top, "Credit education." He didn't know yet what he would put beneath those words, but he sensed, with the instinct of someone who has studied engineering and understands that great structures are built from small, precise pieces, that he was beginning something important. What is a credit score, exactly? Elena was a patient teacher. Over the next several evenings, while the autumn wind began rattling the windows of her Pilsen apartment, she walked Marcus through the fundamentals of the American credit system with the thoroughness of someone who had learned it all through painful experience. "Think of a credit score," she began one evening, pulling out a notepad and drawing a simple diagram, "as a report card. But instead of grading you on math or history, it grades you on how reliably you pay back money you've borrowed. Every time you borrow money, whether it's from a credit card company, a bank, or a car dealership, the company that lends you the money reports your behavior to 3 big companies called credit bureaus. Those bureaus are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. They keep a record of everything: how much you owe, how often you pay on time, how long you've been borrowing, and a bunch of other factors." Marcus was writing furiously. "And then they calculate the score?" "They feed all that information into a formula, and the most common formula used is called the FICO score. FICO stands for Fair Isaac Corporation, the company that invented the formula. Your FICO score ranges from 300 to 850. 300 is terrible. 850 is perfect. Most people fall somewhere in the 500s to the 700s. Marcus drew a number line in his notebook. At one end, he wrote 300 and labeled it terrible. At the other end, he wrote 850 and labeled it perfect. Then he drew small brackets along the line and asked Elena to help him label them. "Below 580 is considered poor," she said. "That's where I started. It was actually lower. I had no score at all, which is almost worse because you don't even show up on the radar. Between 580 and 669 is fair. Between 670 and 739 is good. Between 740 and 799 is very good. And 800 and above is exceptional." Marcus circled the 742 he had written in his notebook and drew an arrow to the very good range. "You're in very good," he said. "Yes, and it took me 5 years of careful behavior to get there. You're starting at 0, no history. Which means technically you're in a worse position than someone with a bad score because at least they have a history, even if it's bad. You're a ghost." A ghost. The word settled on Marcus like a cold weight. He had come to America with skills, intelligence, and ambition, but as far as the financial system was concerned, he did not exist. The 5 pillars of credit. Over the following week, Elena broke down the 5 factors that determine a FICO credit score. Marcus listened to each one with the focused attention he had once given to structural load calculations in his engineering courses, because he understood instinctively that these were the load-bearing walls of his financial future. The first factor, Elena said, and the most important one, it makes up 35% of your score, is payment history. This is simply, do you pay your bills on time? Every single time, do you pay at least the minimum amount owed before the due date? One late payment, even one, can drop your score dramatically. Some people lose 50 or even 100 points from a single late payment. The longer your history of on-time payments, the better this portion of your score will be. Marcus underlined this 3 times in his notebook. The second factor, Elena continued, makes up 30% of your score. It's called credit utilization. This is the ratio of how much credit you're using compared to how much credit you have available. Say you have a credit card with a $1,000 limit. If you have a $500 balance on it, your utilization is 50%. The experts say you should keep utilization below 30%, ideally below 10%, if you want a high score. Using too much of your available credit makes lenders nervous. They think you might be in financial trouble. So, having a credit card and barely using it is better than using it a lot? Using it but paying it off is the key. Ideally, you use it a little and pay it off in full every month. That shows you can handle credit responsibly without depending on it. Marcus nodded, adding more notes. This was counterintuitive to him. In Guatemala, people were suspicious of debt. You saved and then you bought. But in America, the game was different. You had to play with borrowed money just to prove you can be trusted with it. The third factor, Elena said, makes up 15% of your score. It's called length of credit history. How long have you had credit accounts? The longer, the better. This is why people say you should never close your oldest credit card, even if you don't use it much anymore. Closing it shortens your average account age and can hurt your score. That means time is part of the formula. Yes, which is why starting now, even though you're starting from zero, is so important. Every month that passes with good behavior adds to your history. You cannot rush this part. You just have to be consistent. The fourth factor makes up 10% of your score, credit mix. This refers to the variety of credit types you have. There are 2 main types: revolving credit, like credit cards where you borrow up to a limit and pay back monthly, and installment credit, like a car loan or student loan, where you borrow a fixed amount and pay it back in fixed monthly installments. Having a mix of both types shows you can manage different kinds of financial responsibility. And the fifth factor, also 10%, new credit inquiries. Every time you apply for a new Vern or Kona card, the lender does what's called a hard inquiry. They pull your credit report to check your history. Too many hard inquiries in a short period can lower your score because it makes you look desperate for credit. It's like applying for 15 jobs at once. It makes potential employers wonder if something is wrong with you. Marcus sat back and looked at his notebook. The 5 pillars were there in clear, neat handwriting. Payment history, 35%. Credit utilization, 30%. Length of credit history, 15%. Credit mix, 10%. New credit inquiries, 10%. He drew a pie chart beside them, dividing the circle into segments that matched the percentages. So